Hey, welcome everybody once again to Three Up and Three Down. Sorry this video is so late, but I wanted to make sure I got everything covered and double checked on a couple of things, and hopefully we can win some money together. For those of you new to the channel, this is for today's DraftKings college football contest, which will be a 7 game slate. Um, I will give you 3 up players, players that I think you need to pay up for, and 3 down players, players that I think are lower on the salary scale, but I believe will hit value. First of all, last week was not a good one. And it sometimes those happens. I'll take 15 out of 17 very good weeks. I can go over one wrong. We had 2 Penn State players, and I only went 2 up and 2 down last week because it was only a 4 game slate. 2 Penn State players. I was obviously not counting on their defense setting up for 2 touchdowns, one a pick six early on, and taking a passing away game away from Penn State as we had their quarterback and their tight end, and they kind of became irrelevant. So it was not a good week. But like I said, I'll take 15 out of 17 um, good weeks forever, and make money on that. Like I mentioned, this is a 7 game slate today. There are 2 games that could be affected by weather. The one that's most prominent is the East Carolina and North Carolina State, which will be played in Annapolis, Maryland. They're expecting rain for most of the game there. The second one will be Boston College and Nebraska, which will be played at Yankee Stadium. And that's another game that could be affected by rain. The chances of it there are not as prominent as the ECU NCSU game. Um, this is a tough time of the year to make picks, simply because we have the transfer portal, and players that opt out at the last minute. So you have to be careful with that. I've been burnt with that in the past. I'm extremely careful with it now. And hopefully that's not going to be a problem. I will forewarn you, for players that you may want to check on. As a matter of fact, you may want to check in all the games, all the players that you have prior to the game to see if there's any news of anybody with either a last minute injury, not dressed, because they're opting out. But without further ado, we'll now go to our 3 up players. And we are going to start with one of my favorite players in college football, and that is quarterback Bryson Daly of Army, which plays Louisiana Tech. And he is 10,200. He is easily the best dual threat quarterback in the country, having rushed for over 1,500 yards so far this year. He's coming off an absolutely atrocious game against Navy, having by far his worst performance of the year. In the previous 9 games prior to that, he had at least 28 fantasy points. Louisiana Tech is a replacement team in this bowl game and is 5-7, and by far the worst team on the slate. This is going to be the late game tonight. I expect Daly to eat all day long, and I think this is almost a lock, provided a last minute opt out, which doesn't usually happen with the Armed Force Academies. I expect them to just have a huge game. Next on the 3 up will be running back Damian Martinez of Miami of Florida. And I'm saying Florida because Miami of Ohio is also on the slate. And they are playing Iowa State, and he's at 6,000. This game could be a shootout. Good weather, 2 teams with not very good defenses, especially Miami. Martinez is not a heavy volume back, but he's almost guaranteed double-digit touches and goal line carries. And there's also talk that quarterback Cam Ward may only play a little, and receiver Xavier Restrepo may be a last-minute opt-out. If either of these happens, Martinez becomes an even better option. And finally, on the 3 up side, we're going to go with wide receiver Jaden Higgins of Iowa State in that same game versus Miami of Florida. Higgins is 7,900. As I mentioned, I think this one might exceed implied game totals. Under most circumstances, I would say set it and forget it with Higgins. However, there are rumors he may also be a last minute opt out. The game is at 3:30, so if you take him, make sure you find out if he's in uniform. Iowa State needs to throw the ball to be successful. Higgins has over 1,100 yards and 87 catches on the season and has double-digit targets in 11 games. His lowest fantasy point total was 12.9. Now we go to the three down players, players that I think are underpriced and could hit value very easily. And we are going to start off with wide receiver JP Richardson of TCU versus Louisiana. Richardson is 3,900. TCU's top two receivers have already opted out, leaving Richardson and Eric McAllister, who's 4,200, as their primary pass catchers for this game. I went with Richardson because he's cheaper and has proved himself even with everyone active. He has over 100 yards in two of the last three games. This is the second highest expected scoring on the day, and TCU has the most implied points. My main concern here is that TCU jumps out to a big lead early and abandons the pass. Next on the three downside will be running back Dylan Smothers of North Carolina State versus East Carolina. Smothers is 4,900. This is the highest expected total on the board, despite likely rain throughout the game. That means I looked hard at the running backs in this game. Smothers is only a freshman, redshirt freshman, and has steadily taken over the number one position ahead of Jordan Waters. He has at least 23 fantasy points in three of his last five games. And next up on the three down will be running back Emmett Johnson of Nebraska, which is playing Boston College. Johnson is 5,400. Lead back Dante Dowdle has entered the transfer portal, meaning there is little competition out of the backfield for Johnson. His carries have steadily increased, even with Dowdle there, in the last four games, and has averaged 21 fantasy points in the last three. But what I really love about him is that he's a three down back. He has 19 receptions in the last three games. So those are our three up and three down players. Please hit like and subscribe if you're getting something out of this channel. Hopefully you are. I know a few of you have already made quite a bit of money. And I will definitely have another video up. I'm quite sure DraftKings is going to have a um, fantasy contest for the four playoff games, which will be on New Year's Day. So I'll either have something up New Year's Eve or something up New Year's Day. Once again, thank you for listening. Let's win some money together. Let's make it a big win this week. And I'm Sweet Lou, and I hope to see you soon. Take care, guys.